Welcome to my channel. Please support my channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Thank you. It was one of those quiet nights when the house feels too still, like the silence has its own heartbeat. Claire sat by her living room window in her small apartment in Seattle, watching the city lights fade into the fog. The clock on her wall ticked closer to midnight. She had just finished replying to some work emails and was ready to call it a night when her phone suddenly buzzed on the coffee table. She frowned. The name on the screen made her heart skip. Ethan Matthews, her best friend's husband. Claire hesitated. Why would Ethan call her at this hour? For a moment, she thought it must be a mistake. Maybe he meant to call Emily, her best friend, and his wife. But something inside her whispered that this call wasn't an accident. She let it ring twice before answering. Ethan, she said softly, trying to sound calm, though her pulse quickened. Claire, I'm sorry. I know it's late. His voice came through, low and uncertain. But I didn't know who else to call. Her chest tightened. Ethan's voice carried a weight she hadn't heard before, a mix of worry and exhaustion. What happened? Is Emily okay? Claire asked immediately, her mind racing. There was a pause. Then Ethan sighed. She's fine. I mean, she's not hurt or anything. We had an argument. She left. I thought maybe she went to you. Claire blinked, confused. No, she didn't. I haven't spoken to her since this morning. What happened between you two? Ethan's silence told her more than words could. He was holding something back. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Claire could hear the faint sound of rain against his car windows through the line. Then he said quietly, "It's been bad lately. I don't know if she's coming back tonight." Claire took a slow breath, torn between concern for her best friend and sympathy for the man on the other end of the line. She and Ethan had always gotten along. He was kind, thoughtful, the sort of person who remembered small things like her favorite coffee order or the book she was reading. But they had always kept a respectful distance, aware of the invisible line that existed between them because of Emily. Still, hearing him like this, shaken and alone, unsettled her. "I'm sure she just needs some space," Claire said softly. "You know how Emily gets when she's upset? She cool off and come home." "I hope you're right," Ethan murmured. Then, after a pause, he added, "I didn't mean to bother you. I just needed to hear a familiar voice." Something about those words made Claire's chest ache. She tried to sound steady. "It's okay. You're not bothering me." Outside, the rain grew heavier, the soft rhythm echoing her racing thoughts. She wanted to comfort him but didn't know how without crossing boundaries. "Ethan, listen," she said gently. "Try to get some rest. Maybe text her in the morning. Everything feels worse at night." He gave a faint laugh, the kind that sounded more like a sigh. "You always know what to say." Claire smiled faintly despite herself. That's what friends are for. But even as she said it, she couldn't ignore the quiet tension that had crept into her voice and his. After they hung up, Claire sat staring at her phone. Something about the conversation lingered in her mind. It wasn't just concern for Emily. It was the way Ethan's voice had trembled when he said he needed someone to talk to. The way he sounded. Lonely. She told herself it was nothing. He was married to her best friend. That was all that mattered. Yet as she turned off the lamp and lay down in bed, she couldn't shake the image of him sitting somewhere in his car, rain streaking down the windows, trying to hold himself together. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time. "Ethan, sorry again for calling so late. I didn't mean to worry you. Thank you for listening." She stared at the screen for a moment, debating whether to reply. Finally, she typed back, "Claire, you don't have to thank me. I just hope everything's okay." A few seconds later, another message came through. "Ethan, you've always had a way of calming people down. I think Emily's lucky to have you as a friend." Claire's heart softened but also tightened in a way that made her uneasy. She typed back a short reply. "Claire, get some rest. Ethan, things will look better in the morning." She set her phone down again and tried to sleep, but her thoughts refused to quiet. By the next morning, Emily still hadn't called, and Claire's unease had only grown. When she finally heard a knock on her apartment door, around 8 a.m., her heart leapt. She thought maybe it was Emily, finally ready to talk. But when she opened the door, it was Ethan. He stood there, rain-soaked and tired, holding 2 cups of coffee. His eyes met hers, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The morning light fell between them like a line neither was supposed to cross, but both of them could already feel it blurring. And in that moment, Claire realized something had shifted forever. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as Ethan stepped into Claire's apartment. Droplets of rain still clinging to his jacket. She blinked, still surprised to see him there so early. "Ethan," she whispered, You didn't have to come all the way here. He handed her a cup. I know, but I couldn't stay at home. It just didn't feel right. Claire accepted the coffee, still unsure how to react. His eyes looked tired red from lack of sleep, but behind them was something else, something heavy. Guilt, maybe, or confusion. She couldn't tell. Did Emily come home last night? Claire asked, trying to sound calm. He shook his head slowly. No. I waited until 3 in the morning. I called. Texted. Nothing. Claire's stomach tightened. Emily wasn't the type to disappear overnight. Maybe she just needed space, she offered, though her voice lacked conviction. You two have been under a lot of pressure lately. The house renovation. Her job. Yeah, Ethan said, his gaze lowering to the floor. But it's more than that. We've been drifting. For months now. I try to talk to her, but it always turns into another argument. He ran a hand through his hair, the way he did when he was frustrated. Claire had seen that gesture before during dinner parties or casual hangouts with Emily. But this morning, it carried a different weight. She took a sip of her coffee, trying to ground herself. You two love each other, Ethan. Maybe you just need to remember why you started in the first place. He looked up, his voice low. You make it sound so simple. Claire gave a small, sympathetic smile. Sometimes the hardest things are simple. They just take effort. Ethan nodded, but his eyes lingered on her a moment too long. And suddenly, she felt a strange flutter in her chest, something she didn't want to name. She turned away quickly, walking toward the window to put distance between them. The city outside was still damp, the gray morning mist softening everything it touched. You should talk to her, Ethan. Maybe after work, try again. I will, he said after a pause. But Claire, she turned, sensing the shift in his tone. He hesitated, his expression conflicted. I know it's not fair to say this, but last night, when you picked up the phone I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Calm. Safe. The words hung in the air between them. Claire froze, her pulse quickening. Ethan, she said gently, you're just tired. It's been a rough night. He gave a faint, almost embarrassed laugh. Maybe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it weird. It's okay, she said quickly, forcing a small smile. I just don't want to be part of anything that makes things harder for you and Emily. I know, he said softly. That's one of the things I respect most about you. The silence that followed was fragile but charged. It was the kind of silence that said everything words couldn't. Then Ethan looked at his watch. I should go, he said, his voice steady again. Thank you for the coffee and for listening. Again, anytime, she replied, though her heart ached with unspoken confusion. As he reached the door, Claire said quietly, Ethan, whatever's happening, don't give up on her yet. He nodded, meeting her eyes one last time. I won't. When the door closed behind him, the room felt emptier than before. Claire stood there, staring at the untouched second cup of coffee on her counter. The steam was fading, just like the warmth in her chest. She took a deep breath and sat down, trying to push away the strange mix of emotions swirling inside her: concern, sadness, and something else she didn't want to admit. But before she could gather her thoughts, her phone buzzed again. A message from Emily. Emily. Claire, can we talk later? I need to tell you something. Please don't tell Ethan you heard from me yet. Claire's heart dropped. She stared at the message, her mind spinning. What could Emily possibly need to hide from Ethan? And why did it feel like Claire was suddenly standing in the middle of something much bigger than she realized? Claire stared at her phone for what felt like forever, rereading Emily's message. The words "please don't tell Ethan you heard from me yet" echoed in her mind. Something about that line didn't feel right. She finally typed back, her fingers trembling slightly. Claire. Of course, Emily. Just tell me you're safe. A few seconds later, the 3 little dots appeared on the screen. Then came the reply. Emily, I'm okay. I just needed to get away for a bit. I'm at my sister's place in Portland. Please, Claire, don't say anything to Ethan yet. I'll explain everything soon. Claire exhaled, part relief and part confusion. At least she's safe, she thought. But why the secrecy? Why avoid her husband, especially when he'd been so worried he showed up at Claire's door in the rain? She set her phone down and rubbed her temples. The situation was getting tangled fast, and somehow, she'd become the thread holding both sides together. By noon, Claire couldn't concentrate on work. She replayed her conversation with Ethan over and over, the way his voice had cracked, the quiet look in his eyes, and now Emily's mysterious message. Finally, she picked up her phone and called Emily. It rang twice before her friend answered. Claire. Emily's voice was soft, but tired. Emily, what's going on? Ethan's been worried sick. He even came by this morning looking for you. I know, Emily said with a sigh. He texted me a dozen times. I just can't talk to him yet. Why not? Claire asked gently. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Emily said, because I found out something, Claire. Something I didn't expect. Claire's stomach tightened. What do you mean? I don't want to say it over the phone, Emily whispered. It's not what it looks like, but it changes everything. Can I come by tomorrow? Just you and me. Of course, Claire said immediately. But Emily, please promise me you'll at least tell him you're safe. He's hurting. Emily hesitated, then sighed. I'll text him later. I just need a little time to think. Okay, Claire said softly. I'm here for you, no matter what. When they hung up, Claire felt no closer to understanding what was really happening, but deep down, she had a feeling this wasn't just another marital argument. Something deeper was at play. Later that evening, as she cooked herself dinner, there was another knock at her door. Her heart jumped half, expecting it to be Emily, but it was Ethan again. He looked calmer this time, but weary. Hey, he said, managing a faint smile. I just wanted to thank you again for listening earlier. Claire nodded, forcing a smile. Any news from Emily? He shook his head. Nothing. I've been checking my phone every few minutes. I don't know what to think anymore. Claire wanted to tell him the truth that Emily was safe, but her friend's words echoed in her head. Please don't tell Ethan you heard from me yet. Her loyalty was torn in two directions. She hated lying, especially to someone who clearly didn't deserve to be left in the dark. I'm sure she'll reach out soon, Claire said carefully. Maybe she just needs space to figure things out. I hope so, he murmured, leaning against the counter. You know, Emily's lucky to have someone like you. You've always looked out for her. Claire gave a small smile, though her chest felt tight. We've been friends for a long time. I just want what's best for both of you. Ethan nodded, but didn't move. His gaze stayed fixed on her, quiet but intense. There was gratitude in it, but also something unspoken. Something that made Claire's pulse quicken in a way she wished it wouldn't. The air between them shifted, thick with silence. Finally, Claire cleared her throat and said softly, you should try to rest. Ethan tomorrow might bring answers. He nodded, then hesitated. Yeah, you're right. I just didn't want to be alone tonight. The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. For a split second, she didn't know what to say. She offered a gentle smile. You're not alone, okay? You've got people who care about you. Don't forget that. He looked at her for a moment longer, then nodded. Thanks, Claire. Really. When he left, she closed the door slowly, leaning against it for a moment as her thoughts spun. Two people she cared about, both in pain, both hiding something, and somehow she was in the middle of it. Her phone buzzed again just as she sat down. Another message from Emily. Emily, don't tell Ethan anything yet. Claire, please. There's something you don't know about him. Claire's blood ran cold. She read the message twice, then 3 times, her heart pounding. Something you don't know about him. What did that mean? What could Emily possibly have discovered? And as Claire stared at the screen, a single unsettling thought crossed her mind. What if Ethan wasn't telling her everything either? The message from Emily kept flashing in Claire's mind. There's something you don't know about him. She barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, Ethan's face appeared, the tired eyes, the soft voice, the way he'd said he didn't want to be alone, and then Emily's words would echo, filling her chest with unease. By morning, the Seattle rain had stopped, but the world still felt gray. Claire made herself coffee and tried to focus on work, but the tension between her heart and her head was impossible to ignore. She'd known Emily and Ethan for almost 7 years. They were the couple everyone thought was perfect, always smiling, always showing up together. But now, she was starting to wonder how much of that had been real. At 10 a.m., her phone buzzed again. A new text from Ethan. Ethan, hey, I'm sorry for showing up yesterday. I just wanted to say thank you. You've been a real friend through all this. Claire typed back. Claire, you don't need to apologize. I just hope things work out between you and Emily. After a few minutes, he replied, Ethan, I hope so too. But if I'm being honest, I'm starting to think maybe she doesn't want it to. Claire frowned. She wanted to tell him she's safe, she still cares, but Emily's warning stopped her. Instead, she wrote, Claire, don't jump to conclusions yet, maybe she just needs clarity. He didn't respond right away, and she took that as a sign he was still trying to process everything. By afternoon, Claire's doorbell rang again. When she opened it, Emily stood there, her hair slightly messy, a travel bag slung over her shoulder, eyes tired but alert. Emily, Claire breathed. relief washing over her. "Come in." As soon as she stepped inside, Emily exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. "I drove all night from Portland," she said softly. "I couldn't stay there any longer." "Ethan's been worried sick," Claire said gently. Emily looked down. "I know, and I'll talk to him, but first, you need to hear the truth." Claire's stomach knotted. "Emily, what's going on?" Emily sat down on the couch, her fingers fidgeting with the zipper on her jacket. "You've always believed Ethan's the perfect guy, and for a long time, I did too. But lately, he's been distant, hiding things, taking late-night calls, keeping his phone on silent, saying it's work." Claire hesitated. "Maybe he's just stressed." Emily shook her head. "I thought so too. Until last week, when I saw a message pop up on his screen. It was from someone saved under a man's name, but the text wasn't from a man. It said, 'Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you.'" Claire froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "Emily, are you sure?" "I confronted him," Emily said quietly. "He denied everything. Said it was a client texting the wrong number. But the next day, he deleted the contact. That's when I knew something wasn't right." Claire's mind spun. Ethan didn't seem like the type to do that, but then again, she'd only seen him in moments, never behind closed doors. "I didn't want to make it public," Emily continued. "I just needed space to think. That's why I went to Portland. But when he started calling you," she trailed off, looking at Claire carefully. "Claire, has he said anything strange to you?" The question hit harder than Claire expected. She thought back to that night, the sound of his voice through the phone, the way he'd said she made him feel safe, the warmth in his eyes that morning with the coffee cups. "He just seemed lonely," Claire said carefully. "Sad. I think he misses you." Emily watched her for a long moment, searching her face. "You've always been honest with me," she said finally. "If there's something I should know, tell me." Claire shook her head. "Emily, I promise I'd never hide something from you." And she meant it, but even as she said it, she felt a pang of guilt, because she was hiding something. That quiet, charged moment between her and Ethan, the one she hadn't told anyone about. Emily leaned back, tears gathering in her eyes. "I don't even know if I want to save this marriage anymore," she whispered. "Part of me still loves him, but part of me doesn't trust him." Claire reached out, taking her hand. "Whatever you decide, I'll be here. Always." Emily smiled faintly. "I know." Just then, there was a knock on the door. Both women froze. Claire's heart raced. Slowly, she stood up and walked to the door, peeking through the peephole. It was Ethan. He was standing in the hallway, holding a folded umbrella and looking directly at her door, his face unreadable. "Claire," Emily's voice trembled behind her. "Is that him?" Claire nodded, whispering, "Yes." Emily rose from the couch, her expression torn between fear and anger. "Don't open it yet," she said quietly. But Ethan knocked again, this time, louder. "Claire, I know she's there. Please, just let me talk to her." The rain outside began again, tapping against the window like a quiet drumbeat. Claire stood frozen between them, two people she cared about, two stories she didn't fully understand in that moment. She knew that whatever happened next would change everything. For a moment, Claire couldn't move. The knocking on the door echoed through her small apartment, each thud heavy with tension. Ethan's voice came again, low, calm, but pleading. "Claire, please. I just need to talk to her. I just want her to hear me out." Emily stood frozen near the window, her arms crossed, eyes glistening. "He shouldn't even know I'm here," she whispered sharply. "Did you tell him?" Claire turned, shaking her head. "No, I swear, I didn't say a word." "Maybe he guessed." Emily's face softened slightly, but her eyes stayed wary. "He always finds a way," she murmured, more to herself than to Claire. The knocking came again, quieter this time. "Emily," Ethan said, his voice cracking a little. "I know you can hear me. Please, just 5 minutes. After that, I'll leave if you want me to." Claire looked between them. She could feel both their emotions, his regret, her hurt, and she wished she could stop time just to figure out what to do. Finally, Emily exhaled and said quietly, "Let him in." Claire hesitated, but when she saw the tear in Emily's eyes, she nodded. She opened the door slowly. Ethan stood there, rain dripping from his hair, his jacket damp. The moment his eyes met Emily's, he froze. "You really are here," he said softly. Emily didn't reply. She folded her arms tighter, guarding herself. Claire stepped aside, letting him in. The air between the three of them felt charged like lightning, waiting to strike. Ethan's gaze flickered between the two women. "Emily," he started carefully, "I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I know I hurt you, but please believe MIT wasn't what you think. Emily let out a brittle laugh. Then tell me what it was. Ethan, tell me why a woman is texting you about nights that felt amazing. Tell me why you've been lying. Ethan looked genuinely pained. It's not like that. The message you saw, yes. It was from someone I met through work. But nothing happened, Emily. She was a client who got too personal. I shut it down immediately. Then why did you delete it? Emily's voice shook. If it was innocent, why hide it? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Because I knew how it would look. You've barely looked at me for months, and I didn't want to give you another reason to think the worst of me. Emily's lips trembled. So you thought lying would make it better? No. Ethan said quietly. I thought maybe I could protect what was left of us. The room fell silent. Claire stood a few steps away, not wanting to intrude but unable to look away. For the first time since he'd arrived, Ethan turned toward her. Claire, you've known us both for years. You know I'd never do something like that. The way he said her name soft, almost pleading, sent a shiver through her. She could feel Emily's eyes on her, waiting. I don't know what to think anymore, Claire admitted. I just know both of you are hurting. And this, whatever it is, it's tearing you apart. Ethan looked at Emily again. I love you, he said, his voice breaking slightly. Even if you don't believe me right now, I just want to fix this. Emily blinked, and for a moment, something fragile flickered in her expression. But then she shook her head. It's not that simple, Ethan. Love doesn't erase secrets. I know, he whispered, but it's a start. Tears welled in Emily's eyes, and she looked away, her voice low. I don't even know who you are anymore. Ethan took a step closer, his tone gentle. Then let me show you. Let me prove it. Before Emily could respond, Claire's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen and froze. It was a message from an unknown number. Unknown. You don't know the full story about Ethan. Be careful who you trust. Her stomach dropped. Ethan noticed her face change. What's wrong? He asked. Claire hesitated, her pulse racing. It's nothing. Probably spam. She quickly locked her phone, not ready to show them yet. But her mind was spinning. Who would send something like that? And why now? In the middle of all this, the room grew quieter. Emily looked emotionally drained, and Ethan's shoulders slumped with defeat. Finally, Emily said softly, I need some time. Maybe we both do. Ethan nodded slowly, as if he knew there was no point in arguing. Okay, he said, I'll give you that. Just don't disappear again, please. Emily didn't answer. He gave Claire a faint, weary smile before turning to leave. When the door closed behind him, the silence was thick and heavy. Emily sank onto the couch, whispering, I don't even know what's real anymore. Claire sat beside her, trying to calm her own racing heart. She didn't know either. Not about Ethan, not about Emily, and especially not about that message, because deep down, something told her that what had just happened wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something much more complicated. The apartment was quiet again, but it didn't feel peaceful, just heavy. Emily sat curled up on the couch, staring blankly out the window, while Claire stood near the counter, phone still in her hand. That strange message glowed on the screen like a warning. You don't know the full story about Ethan. Be careful who you trust. She couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. Emily, she said softly, there's something I need to show you. Emily turned, her eyes tired. What is it? Claire handed her the phone. This came in just after Ethan left. Emily read the message and frowned. Who would send this? I don't know, Claire said. The number's not saved, and it doesn't have a name. It could be anyone. Emily's expression darkened. Or someone who knows something. Claire nodded, her heart uneasy. I didn't want to tell you at first because I wasn't sure if it meant anything, but something about it doesn't feel random. Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. Everything's gotten so twisted. Claire, I don't even know who to believe anymore. Before Claire could respond, Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced down, then looked up, startled. It's from an unknown number too. Claire's pulse quickened. What does it say? Emily's voice trembled slightly as she read it aloud. You're right not to trust him. Ask him about the lake house. Claire froze. The lake house. Emily's eyes widened. Ethan's parents used to own one. He told me he sold it years ago. Why would someone bring that up now? The air between them thickened with unease. Do you think he's hiding something there? Claire asked cautiously. I don't know, Emily said. But if this is real, if he's been lying about more than just that text, she didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she grabbed her coat. Emily. Wait, Claire called. Where are you going? I need answers, Emily said firmly. If he's lying, I'll find out tonight. Emily, it's almost dark. Maybe you should wait, but Emily was already heading for the door. I have to know, Claire. I'll call you when I get there. The door shut behind her, and Claire was left standing in silence once again. An hour later, Claire sat on the couch, staring at her phone. She tried calling Emily twice, no answer. She texted once. Nothing. The uneasiness grew into dread. Finally, her phone rang. She answered immediately. Emily. But it wasn't Emily, it was Ethan. Claire. His voice sounded strained. Is Emily with you? Claire froze. No. She left about an hour ago. She said she needed to clear her head. Ethan exhaled sharply. She went to the lake house. Claire's blood ran cold. How do you know? Because she just texted me, he said. She said she was going there to see the truth for herself. Claire, I don't know what's happening, but you have to believe me, I never did anything wrong. Then what's at the lake house, Ethan? Claire asked quietly. He hesitated. It's not what she thinks. Then tell me what it is. There was silence on the line, and then he said, please, just trust me. I'll explain everything soon. The call ended before she could say another word. 2 hours later, the rain had started again. Claire couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her car keys and drove. The roads were slick, the night fog thick, but she followed her instincts. When she reached the lake house, it looked exactly how she remembered it from old photos, tucked between pine trees. Its porch light glowing faintly. Emily's car was parked out front. Claire stepped out, her heart pounding. She hurried to the porch and knocked. Emily. It's me. No answer. She tried the door. It opened icily. Inside, the air smelled faintly of dust and cedar. A soft lamp glowed in the living room. And then, from down the hall, she heard voices. Emily's voice died emotional. Ethan's voice low, pleading. Claire followed the sound slowly until she reached the doorway. They were standing in the middle of the old room, surrounded by boxes and papers. Emily was holding something on envelope, her hands shaking. What is this, Ethan? She demanded. Ethan sighed, looking defeated. It's the truth. Claire stepped closer. What's happening? Emily turned, her eyes filled with disbelief. He's been hiding this place from me, not because of another woman, but because he's been trying to protect something. Ethan met Claire's eyes, his voice steady. This house wasn't sold. I kept it. My father left me documents, financial ones, about debts and things Emily never knew. I didn't want her dragged into it. Claire blinked, stunned. So all the secrecy was about trying to fix things before she found out, Ethan said softly. The messages you saw, Emily, they were from a lawyer, not another woman. Her name's Allison. I didn't tell you because I was embarrassed. We're drowning in debt from my father's company. I didn't want you to worry. Emily stared at him, her anger melting into confusion. You lied to protect me. I lied because I was scared, Ethan admitted, but I never stopped loving you. For a long, still moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of rain outside. Finally, Emily's shoulders softened. You should have told me, she whispered. I know, Ethan said, and I'm sorry. Claire watched as Emily stepped closer, her tears finally falling. Ethan reached for her hand, and for the first time in weeks, neither of them pulled away. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and as Claire stood there, she realized something quietly beautiful. Love isn't about being flawless, it's about staying, even when the truth is messy. Outside, the rain began to ease, and the lake shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Claire turned toward the door, giving them space. When she reached her car, her phone buzzed again, another message from the same unknown number. Unknown. Looks like he told her. You did the right thing, Claire. Her breath caught. Whoever that person was, they had been watching all along. She stared out at the dark lake one last time before driving away, knowing one thing for certain: that night changed all three of them forever. The end.